My name is Serena Grant, and I have been married to Lucas Grant for 7 years. 7 years of building a life, a home, and a future together. 7 years of watching my husband put his sister, Miranda, on a pedestal so high that I often wondered if there was any room left for me at the top. Lucas and Miranda were twins. Not identical, obviously, but bound by a connection that I learned early in our marriage was unbreakable. They had lost their parents in a car accident when they were 19, and that tragedy had forged them into a unit that no one could penetrate. I understood that. I respected it. I even admired their loyalty to one another. But over time, I realized that loyalty was a one-way street, and I was never going to be on the receiving end. Miranda married a wealthy real estate developer named Harrison Cole 5 years ago. She had always been the golden child, even after their parents died. She was the one who got the bulk of the insurance money. She was the one who went to private college while Lucas worked 2 jobs to pay his own way. She was the one who threw lavish parties and expected Lucas to attend, to applaud, to contribute. And he always did. Without question. Without ever looking at our own bank account. I worked as a senior graphic designer for a marketing firm in downtown Chicago. It wasn't a glamorous job, but it paid well, and I was good at it. Lucas was a high school history teacher. He loved his work, loved shaping young minds, but teaching doesn't pay for anniversary dinners at restaurants where the appetizers cost more than our weekly grocery bill. That never stopped Miranda from demanding our presence, and it never stopped Lucas from dragging me along. The anniversary in question was Miranda and Harrison's 5th. 5 years of marriage, 5 years of watching Miranda treat her brother like an ATM she never had to replenish. She had chosen the venue months in advance, the Sterling Room, a private banquet hall on the 65th floor of a downtown skyscraper, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Chicago River. It was the kind of place where the waiters wore white gloves and the champagne was older than most of the guests. "This is going to be expensive," I said to Lucas 2 weeks before the event, as he showed me the invitation. It was embossed in gold foil, heavy in my hands. The gift alone. "Don't worry about the gift," Lucas said quickly, not meeting my eyes. "Miranda said just our presence is enough." I laughed at that. A short, hollow laugh. "Lucas, your sister has never once thought our presence was enough. What did she really ask for?" He hesitated. That hesitation told me everything. She mentioned, "There's a vintage Hermes bag she's been eyeing. It's being auctioned online. She thinks it would complete her anniversary outfit." "How much?" $12,000. I set the invitation down on the kitchen counter very carefully, as if it might explode. "Lucas, we don't have $12,000 for a handbag. We have a mortgage. We have student loans. We have a car that's about to die." "I know," he said, his voice pleading. "But it's her 5th anniversary. It's a big deal. Harrison is throwing this massive party, and she wants to feel special. She's my sister, Serena. My twin. She's all I have." "She's not all you have," I said quietly. "You have me. But I'm starting to wonder if you even notice." He pulled me into a hug then, apologizing, promising he would talk to Miranda, promising he would set boundaries. I wanted to believe him. I always wanted to believe him. And for a few days, things felt normal. He didn't mention the bag again. He didn't mention Miranda at all. I let myself relax, let myself think that maybe, just maybe, he had finally chosen me. I was wrong. The night before the anniversary dinner, Lucas came home with a box. It was wrapped in brown paper, nondescript, but I recognized the shape immediately. A handbag box. He tried to hide it in his closet, but I saw it. I said nothing. I wanted to see how this would play out. I wanted to see if he would tell me, or if he would let me walk into that party blind. He didn't tell me. The next morning, he kissed me goodbye and said he had to run errands before the party. I knew where he was going. He was going to pick up the bag, the $12,000 bag, and present it to his sister like a loyal subject paying tribute to his queen. That's when I started planning. I went to our joint bank account online and looked at the balance. We had been saving for years to replace our old Honda Civic. The account held exactly $43,000. It wasn't much, but it was our future. It was the down payment on a reliable car, the emergency fund we had built together. I transferred $35,000 into a private account that Lucas didn't know about. An account I had opened years ago, just in case. Just in case I ever needed an exit. I left $8,000 in the joint account. Enough to cover bills, enough to look normal. Then I went to the bank and withdrew the rest in cash. $43,000 in crisp, $100 bills. I put it in a plain white envelope and sealed it. But I wasn't done. I went to a print shop and had a custom map made. It was a map of downtown Chicago with a single red star marking a location. Below the map, I had them print a single line, the address where your wife finally stopped waiting. I put the map in my clutch. The cash I hid somewhere else. Somewhere only I would know. That night, I dressed carefully. A simple black gown, elegant but not flashy. Diamond studs that Lucas had given me for our 5th anniversary. I looked in the mirror and saw a woman who had spent 7 years being invisible. Tonight, I would be seen. Lucas drove us to the Sterling room, chattering nervously about nothing. He kept glancing at the glove compartment where I knew the Hermes box was hidden. He thought I didn't know. He thought he was being clever. The elevator ride to the 65th floor felt like an ascent into another world. When the doors opened, we were greeted by a wall of sound. Clinking glasses, laughter, a live jazz trio playing in the corner. The room was bathed in soft gold light, the Chicago skyline glittering beyond the windows like a million tiny promises. Miranda saw us immediately. She glided across the room in a crimson gown that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe, her arms outstretched. "Lucas, baby brother, you made it." She embraced him warmly, then turned to me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Serena, you look nice." "Miranda," I said, smiling back with equal falseness. "Happy anniversary. 5 years. That's quite an achievement, isn't it?" She linked her arm through Lucas's, steering him away from me. Come, I want you to meet some of Harrison's investors. They're dying to meet the brilliant teacher brother I'm always bragging about." I watched them go, Lucas casting one apologetic glance over his shoulder. I didn't follow. I found a seat near the windows, ordered a glass of water, and waited. The evening unfolded like a play I had seen before. Toasts were made. Speeches were delivered. Harrison praised his beautiful wife. Miranda praised her successful husband. The guests applauded on cue. I sat in my corner, watching, waiting for my cue. It came after dinner, just as the dessert course was being cleared. Miranda stood up, tapping her champagne glass with a spoon. The room fell silent. Everyone, I have a special surprise," she announced, her voice honey-sweet. "As you all know, my brother Lucas and I have been through everything together. He is my rock, my protector, my other half. And tonight, I wanted to give him a chance to show everyone just how much he loves his big sister." She turned to where Lucas was sitting frozen at the head of the table. "Lucas, stand up, baby brother." He stood, his face pale. He looked at me. I looked back, my expression calm, serene. "Go on," Miranda prompted, her smile widening. "Show everyone how you love your sister. Reach into Serena's clutch. There's something in there I've been waiting for all night." Lucas blinked. "What?" "Miranda, I don't." "Oh, don't be modest," she trilled, laughing. "We all know you've been saving up. Go on. Show them." The guests murmured, curious. Cameras were raised. Lucas walked toward me slowly, hesitantly. He knelt beside my chair, his hand reaching for the small gold clutch resting in my lap. "Serena," he whispered. "What is she talking about?" I looked into his eyes, the eyes of the man I had loved for 7 years. The man who had chosen his sister over me, over and over again. The man who had spent $12,000 on a handbag while our car sat dying in the driveway. "Open it," I said softly. He unclasped the clutch and reached inside. The room held its breath. Lucas's fingers emerged from my clutch, clutching not a check, not a credit card, but a folded piece of paper. He unfolded it slowly, his brow furrowing in confusion. It was the map I had made. The red star. The line of text. I watched his face change. Confusion first, then dawning realization, then horror. He looked up at me, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. What is this?" he stammered. Miranda, still standing at the head of the table, frowned. "Lucas, what are you doing?" "That's not, where is it?" I stood up, smoothing my black gown. Every eye in the room was on me now. The jazz trio had stopped playing. The waiters had frozen mid-pour. The only sound was the distant hum of traffic 65 floors below. "Lucas was going to give you a gift tonight, Miranda," I said, my voice clear and calm. "A $12,000 Hermes bag. He hid it in the glove compartment of our car, thinking I didn't know. Thinking I wouldn't notice that he drained our savings to buy you a present you don't need, for a party we couldn't afford to attend." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Miranda's perfectly painted lips parted in shock. Harrison, standing beside her, looked uncomfortable. "But I had other plans," I continued. "You see, Miranda, I've been married to your brother for 7 years. 7 years of watching you treat him like a servant. 7 years of watching him empty our bank account to fund your lifestyle. 7 years of being invisible while you demanded the spotlight. And tonight, I decided to make myself seen." I reached into the pocket of my gown and pulled out the white envelope. The one with $43,000 in cash. I held it up so everyone could see. "This is our savings," I announced. "Every dollar Lucas and I have saved for the past 3 years. $43,000. We were going to use it to buy a reliable car to build a future. But Lucas decided that your handbag was more important. So I made a decision of my own." I turned to Lucas, who was still kneeling beside my chair, the map crumpled in his hand. "I transferred most of the money to a private account last night," I told him. "Then I withdrew it in cash this morning. This is your share. $43,000. You can have it, Lucas. All of it. Use it to buy Miranda more handbags. Use it to pay for her next vacation. Use it to prove your love for the rest of your life. Because I'm done." The silence in the room was absolute. I could see the shock on every face, the disbelief. Miranda looked like someone had slapped her. Harrison was staring at his shoes. Lucas was still kneeling, his face ashen. "But that's not all," I said, turning back to Miranda. "You wanted a show tonight. You wanted everyone to see how much your brother loves you. So let's give them a show." I walked toward the windows, the Chicago skyline sprawling behind me like a glittering audience. I faced the room full of strangers, of wealthy investors and socialites, of people who had come to celebrate a fairy tale marriage. "Miranda inherited $200,000 when her parents died," I said. "Lucas inherited nothing. He worked 2 jobs to put himself through college while she traveled Europe. She married a rich man and never looked back. But she always looked to Lucas when she needed something. Money for a down payment. Money for a wedding. Money for a handbag. And he always gave it. He always gave because she's his sister, his twin, the only family he has left." I paused, letting the words sink in. "But I am his family too. I was his family. And for 7 years, I watched him choose her. Over and over. Until tonight." I looked at Lucas, still kneeling on the floor, tears streaming down his face. "I loved you," I said quietly. "I really did. But love isn't supposed to make you feel invisible. It isn't supposed to make you feel like you're competing with someone who will always win. So tonight, I'm not competing anymore. I'm leaving." I walked toward the elevator, the white envelope still in my hand. Behind me, I heard Miranda's voice, shrill and desperate. "Lucas, stop her. Don't let her take that money. That's our money." I pressed the elevator button and waited. The doors slid open. I stepped inside and turned to face the room one last time. Lucas was still on his knees. Miranda was pointing at me, her face twisted with rage. Harrison was trying to calm her down. The guests were staring, frozen in a tableau of shock. The elevator doors closed, and I was alone. The ride down was silent. I leaned against the polished brass wall, my heart pounding, my hands trembling. I had done it. I had finally done it. I had no idea what came next, but for the first time in 7 years, I wasn't invisible. I walked out of the building and into the cool Chicago night. The streets were busy, full of people living their ordinary lives. I hailed a cab and gave the driver an address. Not my home. Not anymore. A hotel downtown, one I had booked that morning, just in case. I checked in, went to my room, and sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the envelope in my hands. $43,000. It wasn't a fortune, but it was a start. It was freedom. My phone buzzed. Then buzzed again. Then started ringing. Lucas. Miranda. Harrison. I ignored them all. I turned off my phone, lay back on the bed, and stared at the ceiling. I had no idea what the morning would bring. But I knew one thing for certain. I would never be invisible again. The next morning, I woke up to a sunrise I hadn't seen in years. Not through the smudged windows of our cramped apartment, not through the fog of obligation and resentment. This sunrise was mine alone, painting the Chicago skyline in shades of gold and rose. I turned on my phone. 73 missed calls. 42 text messages. Most from Lucas, some from Miranda, a few from numbers I didn't recognize. I deleted them all without reading a single one. I had plans. The first thing I did was call my boss. I explained that I needed a week of personal time, effective immediately. She didn't ask questions. She had seen the exhaustion in my eyes for months. Maybe years. The second thing I did was find a divorce attorney. Her name was Margot Stein, and she had a reputation for being ruthless. I made an appointment for that afternoon. The third thing I did was go shopping. Not for handbags or designer gowns, but for a new life. I bought a suitcase, practical clothes, a laptop bag. I rented a small apartment in a neighborhood across town, a place Lucas would never think to look. I signed the lease with cash and moved in that evening with nothing but my suitcase and my freedom. Lucas found me 3 days later. I was sitting in a small cafe near my new apartment, drinking coffee and reading a book, when he walked through the door. He looked terrible. Unshaven, hollow-eyed, wearing the same clothes from the night of the party. He spotted me immediately and crossed the room in 3 long strides. "Serena," he breathed, sliding into the chair across from me. Thank God. I've been looking everywhere. I set down my book and looked at him. Really looked at him. The man I had loved, the man I had married, the man who had made me invisible for 7 years. "How did you find me?" I asked calmly. "Your credit card. The coffee shop. I've been checking." He reached across the table, trying to take my hand. I pulled away. "Serena, please. I'm so sorry. I know I messed up. I know I've been blind. But I love you. I love you so much. Please come home." "Home," I repeated. "You mean the apartment where I was invisible? The marriage where I came second to your sister? That home?" He flinched. "It won't be like that anymore. I swear. I've already talked to Miranda. I told her things have to change. I told her I'm done funding her lifestyle. I told her." "You told her," I interrupted. "After 7 years, after $43,000, after I had to humiliate myself in front of 200 strangers to get your attention, you finally told her." Tears welled in his eyes. "I know. I know I was too late. But please, Serena, give me one more chance. I'll do anything." I studied him for a long moment. The tears. The desperation. The sincerity. It was all real. I believed that. But it was also 7 years too late. "Lucas," I said gently, "I spent 7 years waiting for you to choose me. 7 years of watching you put your sister first, of watching our savings drain away, of watching myself disappear. And do you know what I realized the night of the party?" He shook his head, tears spilling down his cheeks. "I realized that I was waiting for something that was never going to happen. Not because you're a bad person, but because you don't know how to be anything other than her brother. It's who you are. It's who you've always been. And I can't compete with that. I don't want to compete with that. But I can change," he insisted. "I will change. Just give me a chance to prove it." "You already had 7 years of chances," I said. "And you used every single one of them to prove exactly who you are. I believe you. I believe you love me in your own way. But love isn't enough. It was never enough." I stood up, leaving my coffee untouched on the table. I pulled a folded piece of paper from my pocket and set it in front of him. "Divorce papers," I said. I've already signed. You can have the apartment, the furniture, everything we built together. I don't want any of it. I just want my freedom. He stared at the papers, his face crumbling. Serena, please. Goodbye, Lucas. I walked out of the cafe and didn't look back. The autumn air was crisp and clean, carrying the scent of fallen leaves and distant rain. I walked 5 blocks to my new apartment, unlocked the door, and stepped into my new life. The apartment was small but perfect. A studio with a window that faced east, catching the morning sun. A kitchenette just big enough for coffee and toast. A bed that was mine alone, with sheets I had chosen myself. I sat on the edge of that bed and pulled out the white envelope. The $43,000. I counted it again, just to feel the weight of it in my hands. Then I divided it into 3 stacks. The first stack went to my savings account. My real savings account, the one no one else knew about. The second stack went to a down payment on a car, a reliable used Honda that would get me where I needed to go. The third stack went to something I had dreamed about for years, a one-way ticket to Paris. 2 weeks later, I was sitting in a cafe in Montmartre, drinking espresso and watching the city wake up. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Serena, it's Margot. Lucas signed the papers. No contest. You're free. Also, Miranda's husband filed for divorce. Apparently, the party footage went viral. Her perfect life is over. Thought you'd want to know. I smiled and set down my phone. The Eiffel Tower glittered in the distance. A street musician was playing a jazz standard on his saxophone. The coffee was perfect. I had other plans indeed.